Well, the Loki TV series first episode aired, so please join me in a journey into Loki Laufeyson and Odinson. More after this.
United Comics Universe.
A universe for fans.
From pages to pictures, we are comics.
Hello, United Comics Universes. This is JoninSho. Please join me in this journey into Loki. We're going to cover his origin and some of his story and his story arcs and his powers and abilities. Thanks for tuning in and hope you enjoy. Loki is the birth son of the frost giant Laufey, the former king of Jotunheim. Odin declared war and killed Laufey when Odin's son was Loki. As a baby, he adopted him. This began a prophecy foretold by Odin's father, Bor. In his childhood, Loki was not like his brother Thor. He proved to be a mischievous child and was often also jealous of the affection Odin showed his older brother Thor. He began studying Asgardian magic and science, both of which he would become proficient in and eventually becoming one of the strongest sorcerers in Asgard. Loki is well known for cutting off the long, golden hair of Thor's love Sif. He was forced by Thor to restore it. Loki then enlisted two dwarves to do so, but when he refused to pay them, they made him new black hair out of nothing. Wow, didn't know that. So Sif's hair used to be golden? I never knew. I always noticed it was black, but never knew the origin. So it used to be gold, and then Loki cut it off, and Loki did not pay the dwarves back, so they gave him black hair to restore Sif's hair instead of golden, I guess. Loki and his misadventures. My goodness. More on his childhood. In his youth, Loki was not evil, but tried again and again to gain advantage over his older brother, Thor. Odin sent Thor, Balder, and Sif out in search of materials for a sword. Loki followed them secretly, but found that an evil goddess by the name of Karnilla was about to attack. Karnilla wanted Loki to serve her, as she overthrew Odin. Loki refused her, so Karnilla disciplined and intimidated the prince, telling him that she would conquer Asgard and make Loki bow down before her. Out of fear, Loki was forced to alert Thor and Odin. If Loki hadn't done so, Karnilla would have succeeded in overthrowing the king of Asgard. Meanwhile, Odin loved Thor so much that he was preparing his greatest gift to the young Thor. When Thor turned 8, Odin had a magical hammer created, an amazing powerful one, Mjolnir. Loki was jealous, and he showed his first signs of evil. He interfered with Mjolnir while it was still being made. He caused the handle to be made too short. As a boy, he wanted Mjolnir's power, which would someday be Thor's, and often tried to steal it. When that didn't work, he tried other techniques to damage Thor's life emotionally. Wow, Loki. This plan came to fruition when a younger Amora, the Enchantress, arrived to recruit Loki to work for her so that she could seduce and control Thor. The Enchantress succeeded where Karnilla failed, and Loki aided her in finding a magic mirror which would make Thor fall for the Enchantress completely. This plan did work for a time, but eventually unraveled when Thor's friends and Sif, who truly loved him, helped him break the Enchantress' mind control. Loki once again found himself to have been bested by his brother Thor. This all had an effect on Loki. He grew angrier with each passing day. He was truly becoming evil. His hate for Thor and desire to rule Asgard manifested along with his sorcery and mischief. He became jaded and evil. He finally made a vow to be the most powerful god in Asgard and to kill his brother Thor. Loki, Loki, Loki. Wow. Loki's creation. Based on the Norse myths, Loki appeared for the first time in Venus number 6. A modern reimagining by Stan Lee, Stan the Man Lee, and Jack Kirby, Jack the King Kirby. First appeared in Journey into Mystery number 85. His first appearance as Kid Loki was in Thor issue 617, or perhaps better said, 617. Now let us move into some of Loki's major story arcs. This one, entitled Loki Before the Avengers. Loki is best known for fighting Thor and other heroes in the Marvel Universe, most notably the Avengers, although he's fought many others. However, Loki was an enemy of Thor and goodness before he entered the Marvel Universe and became known. Thor and Loki grew up, and Thor gained the throne of Asgard. Loki became a public enemy. He often tried to seize the throne of Asgard and perpetuated numerous crimes. Eventually, his crimes grew so great that Odin himself was forced to take drastic action. He trapped Loki inside a tree as punishment for his crimes. Loki, however, was very skilled in magic and escaped. Disgruntled, he wandered until finding Eldred, a sorcerer. Eldred was amazingly skilled and powerful in magic, and he specialized in black magic. Eldred schooled Loki in the black arts until Loki was skilled as he is today. Loki left with his newfound abilities and found someone who could enhance his power even more. Surtur, the fire demon. He had power beyond power, and he had a particular liking for souls. Loki turned on teacher Eldred. He sold Eldred's soul to Surtur for power, and in return assumed even more power. All of Eldred's lands, minions, and possessions. Loki continued committing acts such as this for a long time. He drew further into black magic and earned the title God of Evil among the Asgardians. He also formed alliances with many of the worst creatures in Asgard, horrible creatures. Angrboda was an evil goddess who became Loki's wife. Their children were the Midgard serpent, Fenris wolf, and Hela, later goddess of death and enemy of Thor. Loki also married Sigyn by tricking her into believing he was Theoric, her lover. Wow, Loki. That's just wrong. Also, an important development happened at this time. Loki learned of a prophecy, Ragnarok. In Ragnarok, it was fated that he would bring about Asgard's ruin. He would lead the enemies of Asgard into a war against Asgard, kill Balder and destroy all of Asgard. Loki, being evil, liked the idea and accepted it as his destiny. He often tried to destroy Asgard and bring about Ragnarok, but Odin continually stopped him. However, Loki's schemes were so crafty that no one could ever prove it was him. Meanwhile, his brother Thor had become arrogant. The worship of Midgard and adulation of Asgardians as their king went to his head. He also became proud and selfish. One day, while fighting a frost giant, he chased it into frost giant territory. This nearly caused a war. Odin was so angry that he decided to punish Thor. He created a mortal body for Thor, Donald Blake, stripped Thor of his powers and memories, and trapped him inside the body of Donald Blake, MD, medical doctor. I guess we can refer to him as Dr. Donald Blake. Not Dr. Stephen Strange, but Dr. Donald Blake. And let us move into another one of Loki's story arcs called Ages of Thunder. Asgard was under attack by the frost giants. All the gods were fighting as if it was the end of Asgard. In the end, it was Thor standing strong along with his lightning winning the battle for Asgard. Thor brought down a mighty giant who fell and destroyed a giant wall of Asgard, which had stood for as long as anyone could remember. The wall was ruined, but it was spring once again. Yggdrasil grew golden apples once again for the Asgardians to feast on. Only Enchantress had the power to pick the apples from the great tree. All of the gods gained wisdom and youth from eating these apples in their meals. All that is, except for the mighty Thor. Heimdall then spots a man walking towards Asgard. The man was a mason who referred Odin his services to fix the great wall which had been destroyed in their war against the frost giants. The mason said he'd be able to fix the wall in a year, If he could have one thing, he wanted neither riches nor power. All he wanted was the enchantress herself. Loki talked with Odin and they decided to accept the Masons' offer to rebuild their wall. However, they told him that he'd have 6 months and not a year to do so. They all agreed, as the gods deemed it as an impossible task for the man. However, the man built at an alarming rate, a rate that would finish the wall in less than 6 months. This greatly angered Odin, and he told Loki to fix their problem or else he'd bind him to a stone forever. Loki then shapeshifted into a mare in order to distract the man's steed. All night, Loki distracted the steed, and in the morning, the man wasn't able to finish the wall. Odin told the man that he couldn't complete the task, but the man knew that it was Loki who distracted his steed and who made him fail in his task. The man began to say that he'd kill them all and showed his true form. He was actually a shape-shifting frost giant who was ready to damn the Asgardians. As he fought Loki and Odin, Thor returned from his recent journey and killed the giant by throwing Mjolnir at him. He then ordered Loki to clean up this mess. Thor then walked through Asgard, carrying with him the heads of several frost giants. Wow, that's how Thor rolls. Loki was then banished from Asgard for yet another attempt of trickery. Loki wandered through Asgard with no food or direction. It seemed as if he'd been traveling in the snow for thousands of years. One day, an eagle flew up to him and started asking him questions. The eagle laughed at Loki, seeing how weak and desperate he was. The eagle offered Loki a deal. He'd give him food if he could bring him his heart's desire, the Enchantress. Loki then talked to Enchantress and fooled her by saying he had found golden apples which she could pick. They climbed to the top of a snowy mountain where a frost giant who had masqueraded as the eagle was waiting for them. The giant then took Enchantress with him to be his queen. The Asgardians then began to starve as only Enchantress was able to pick the golden apples from the tree. Odin then found out that Loki was to blame and forced him to attempt to save Enchantress from the frost giant. Loki then went back to the lair of the frost giant. He found Enchantress laying there tied up while the frost giant was sleeping. He secreted her and then the frost giant woke up, discovered her missing. He secreted her, secreted her away, snuck her out. Moving right along, the frost giant gave chase and eventually caught up to the two Asgardians and took hold of them. There was nobody around to rescue the two from the hands of the frost giant. Yet when all seemed lost, Thor then came flying down from the sky straight into the frost giant, killing him. Enchantress was then returned to Asgard, and the gods feast on golden apples once more. That was an interesting story arc. Those golden apples sure do sound yummy. Wow, amount of apples, some cosmic knowledge. By the way, this is coming from Comic Vine, comicvine.com. If you want to see more into Loki, comicvine.com. Well, great site. Lots of information. Well monitored and taken care of, looks like. I'm just picking a few selections of his story arcs because there's quite a few, as we don't want this video content to be too long. This sounds interesting. Let's move into Loki's story arc, The Avengers Creation. Donald Blake was a happy, normal doctor. He was caring and loving and had a good family. Then the alien Kronaz invaded. Fleeing, Blake fled into the cave Thor was born in. He found a walking stick, and when he picked it up, it became Mjolnir. He transformed into Thor and regained his memories. This meant he could change into Thor whenever he wanted by banging his cane on the ground. So Thor was back on Earth, and eventually Loki found out. Naturally, this was big news for the evil God, his long-lost, worst enemy brother, was at last found. Loki used powerful magic and managed to escape his own imprisonment and ended up on an island. There, Loki made his first, most notable appearance. Loki traveled to Earth and found an incredible engine of destruction equal to Thor, the Incredible Hulk. He used psychic powers to make the slow-minded Hulk believe there had been dynamite placed on the train tracks. Hulk destroyed the train trestle to stop the train from triggering the dynamite from exploding, and held the track on his shoulders so that the train could pass safely. However, what the train conductor saw was a broken track and Hulk beneath it. Naturally, he concluded that Hulk was on a rampage. He put out a distress call and alert authorities to Hulk's seeming rampage. Loki intercepted the call and stopped it from reaching the Fantastic Four and other heroes. The only one he let the transmission reach was Donald Blake, who instantly transformed into Thor, but Iron Man, Ant-Man, and Wasp also picked up the signal. Ant-Man used his network of ants to find Hulk. Hulk had been captured and was working in a circus as the strongman. Oh, really? Ant-Man quickly found him and had his ants trap Hulk beneath Earth. Hulk escaped though and was met by Iron Man. Iron Man and Ant-Man teamed up to confront Hulk, but he smashed his way through all their efforts and escaped into the desert. Meanwhile, Thor suspected that this looked like the work of Loki. He was granted permission by Odin and traveled to the Asgardian island that Loki was located. Loki created many challenges for him along the way, such as volcanoes and more, but Thor overcame them all. Then they finally meet. For the first time in centuries, Loki created conjurations that Thor battled, but he defeated them. However, Loki had a trick up his sleeve. He made a deal with the trolls that lived beneath the surface. He would deliver unto them the most powerful god if they could but capture him. The trolls dragged Thor underground, but he used Mjolnir to shine a bright light on them. The underground creatures were blinded. Thor then defeated Loki in combat, captured him, and brought him to Earth. Meanwhile, Iron Man and Hulk had been battling ferociously in a factory. As they battled, Thor showed up with Loki as his prisoner. He explained to Hulk that it was really Loki's tricks on him that started the whole incident. Hulk then attacked Loki, but Loki turned radioactive. Loki then tried to destroy Thor, but fell through a trap door, which trapped him inside in a lead-lined tank. The five heroes celebrated and decided to form a team. Wasp suggested the name Avengers, and thus the Avengers were born, all due to Loki. The Avengers would become Loki's second greatest enemy, right behind Thor. They also became known as Earth's greatest heroes. Ironically, it was Loki's attack which would unwittingly create what would become a great force against evil, which included him so very often. Well, that was the end of that story arc. That was quite intriguing and very interesting. There's quite a few more story arcs. I'll name them off, but we won't continue because for fear the video is getting too long. Hope you're enjoying this. However, if you would like us to continue on with the story arcs, just let us know down below. And if we get enough requests, then I'll get back in the studio and get to it for you. But to name off some of his other, let's say, adventures of Loki, you can find them again at comicvine.com if you want to peruse and read through them and enjoy them. Loki's battles and uprisings, Loki's evil plot, Loki's plan to capture the Infinity Gems, Loki's quest to bring about Ragnarok, Loki's rebirth, Loki's dark reign, Loki's underworld deals and the siege on Asgard, Loki's resurrection, Loki's journey into mystery, and I'll name a few more. Shattered Heroes, Everything Burns, Young Avenger, and Agent of Asgard. And that's just to name a few. there's quite a bit more. All right, and to finish up, let us get into Loki's powers and abilities. Loki is the son of frost giants, as so is endowed with superhuman strength, speed, agility, reflexes, stamina, and durability. Loki is able to press 50 tons without magically enhancing his strength. Wow, so his natural strength, he can lift 50 tons. Despite not usually attempting to physically challenge opponents, he is capable of overpowering strong foes and striking with enough force to destroy a large building with one strike. He is able to dodge bullets, fight continually for up to 24 hours before beginning to feel tired, and has a healing factor superior to any normal human. Loki possesses superhuman durability and is able to withstand powerful energy blasts, falls from great heights, temperature and pressure extremes, and powerful impact forces, as well as immunity to human diseases and toxins. Wow, it's a pretty durable guy. Pretty impressive healing factor sound like too. He is extremely long-lived and immune to all earthly diseases, and has, after recent events, obtained immortality. He does not mean that he is immune to harm, but is denied access to Hell's dimension. He is often credited as a genius, as witnessed in the Acts of Vengeance storyline, which we didn't cover, I don't think. Perhaps we will later. And considered to be second only to Odin and Asgard when comparing intellect. Furthermore, Loki is especially skilled in persuasion, he sure is, and can often use this to confuse, dissuade, or weaken his opponents, as well as join others to his cause. A testament to this is the fact that Loki has been allowed back into Asgard after attempting to kill Thor and being caught doing so nearly 100 times. Wow, that's ridiculous. The greatest of Loki's plans is often foiled because of his obsessive need to humiliate Thor. He had admitted that instead of ruling worlds and conquering alien nations, he is bound to Earth solely to torment Thor. Wow. My goodness. Sounds like they're not only revealing his powers and abilities, but also his weaknesses, which is his character flaws. Moving right along, Loki is the most skilled magician in all of Asgard, if not in all of the 9 worlds. His magic is thought to be derived from 2 sources: his innate ability to manipulate Asgardian energy and his vast knowledge of sorcery. The abilities Loki has shown are energy manipulation and projection, flight, teleportation, matter manipulation, the enhancing of his physical attributes, and so on. Loki can levitate objects with his mind, and this power seems devastating and chaotic in nature. He can even grant people and objects superhuman abilities. As an example, he was the one who gave the Absorbing Man his powers. Wow, didn't know that. He has also boosted a low telepath's power to the point where he could easily defeat Thor. Loki had projected illusions which have fooled entire cities and even Surtur himself. He also telepathically contacted a Skrull deep in space while he himself was imprisoned. He has also changed clouds into dragons and a car into ice cream. Loki can also add his powers to another's, and has done so with Thor and the Silver Surfer. Silver Surfer! There is virtually no limit to the things he can accomplish through magic. His magic, however, is believed to be slightly weaker on Earth, as the Asgardians all become weaker on Earth. I did not know the Asgardians become weaker on Earth. Did you know that? I know I didn't. If you did, let me know down below. Wow, never knew that. In addition to his innate powers, Loki has several magical items at his disposal. This includes, but is not limited to, a scrying pool, the Norn stones, magical whip, a special fire sword, and a dagger, which is equal to Mjolnir. At times, he will call upon these items to assist him in battle, though only the Norn stones and fire sword seem to have made an appearance since the 80s. He currently makes extensive use of the Sword of Truth, known as Grom. It previously belonged to the Asgardian Sigurd, and it forces anyone it is used on to tell the truth. Wow, he possesses the sword of truth. Very intriguing. Wow. United Comics Universe, this has been a journey into Loki, Laufeyson and Odinson. We've heard quite a bit of knowledge and information about Loki that I know I never knew. If you knew, let me know down below, or let me know if you want to hear more, because there's maybe another 12.5 of story arcs we didn't cover in this video, as to keep it from being too long. This has been your dog, your servant, JoninSho, coming in with the intel again on Loki this time. Please do not forget to smash that like button, to subscribe if you haven't already, because we have quite a few viewers but not enough subscribers. So let's see if we can balance that out a little bit. And share this video. And make sure you have hit that notification bell. And if there's anything you request from us, please let us know down below, so that we can know how to serve you even more efficiently. JoninSho out, and we are comics.
Copyright disclaimer. Citation of articles and authors in this report does not imply ownership. Works and images presented here fall under Fair Use Section 107 and are used for commentary on globally significant newsworthy events. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Community Guidelines Disclaimer. The points of view and purpose of this video is not to bully or harass anyone, but rather share that opinion and thoughts with other like-minded individuals curious about the subject.